Good morning and welcome to Coffee Morning at the Mental Health Warrior TV, the voice of the Mental Health Warriors. And I'm going to be joined this morning by the lovely Caroline Murphy Bennis. And boy, have we got a conversation for you. See you in a moment. Good morning. Morning, Caroline.
Morning. Great to see you, Kerry. Haven't seen you for a while.
It has been a little while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you doing?
You've been missed, Kerry, I must say.
Thank you.
Missing you. So happy to see you back on air. I hope you're feeling a lot better.
Yes. Well, I didn't feel unwell, to be perfectly honest with you. I just had this strange thing going on with my voice, and it sort of disappeared for a day or two there. And but even when it did start coming back, it was coming back in fits and starts. You know, it'd be there 1 second and then it'd disappear the next.
Okay.
Strange, very strange. But yes, thankfully, it's back now.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, you're just back in time for our Christmas special week, you know.
Yeah.
But you were back last week as well, but you know, we're back full. Yeah, full whack this week.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we're having a break for a couple of weeks, aren't we, until the new year?
Yeah. Everyone needs a bit of a rest, I think, you know.
Brilliant. So, and how have you been keeping?
Yeah, really well, actually. But I like that, you know, the way when you're coming up close to the holidays, I'm starting to feel like I could do with the break, you know, definitely. You know, I'm starting looking forward to it, you know, looking forward to a bit of downtime. So, but you know, the way you start to reflect over the year and everything as well. So doing a bit of that too. So kind of like looking back and thinking, wow, you know, what a year, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, so there's a bit of that going on.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's I like to do that as well, actually. Just have a look at you know, what's been happening, and I tend to focus on the highlights, the really good stuff. You know, it's fine to acknowledge that didn't go so well. You know, because we can learn a lot from those things, can't we?
Yeah, absolutely. It's trying to look at both, I think, you know, because sometimes you can have like just keep looking at the positive all the time and you don't kind of integrate the things that have not been so good. So it's really important to kind of, you know, kind of look and reflect and kind of try to come to peace with things that were difficult as well, you know, and I kind of integrate that into kind of a holistic understanding of your experience, you know. Well, that's what I do anyway. You know, it just helps me kind of bring wisdom into the next year.
Oh, definitely. You know, it's I find that far more useful than focusing on the negative stuff. Even though it is it's quite easy to focus on the negative stuff, isn't it? And really kind of get caught up in that. And I think really, I mean, it still happens to me on occasions. You know, I'll have the odd day where I'm feeling negative and my thoughts are negative and I'm worrying about this and I'm worrying about that. And I know that I've got to turn that around and I know how to do it.
Yeah.
But just occasionally, on the rare occasion, it kind of gets me that much that I think to myself, no, do you know what? I'm just going to have to let it be for today.
Yeah.
Just let it be. Just let it go. That's it. Go with the flow. And lo and behold, probably within a few hours, you know, by the end of the day, I'm feeling a lot calmer, a lot clearer, a lot better, a lot more positive, you know.
You have to kind of, I suppose, acknowledge your feelings as well, don't you? You know, it's really important. You know, you need to kind of, it's okay to have those big emotions and to feel not so good. But, you know, what comes out of it, I think, is kind of like that inner strength. And when you kind of, you can feel, you know, okay, it's difficult, but what can I gain from this? And there's always a silver lining on every cloud, you know. There's always something. I always find like something new coming from something that's very difficult. That's always when the alchemy happens. Like, you know, it's kind of the magic, really, even though I think, because you know the way, I'm sure you're the same, Kerry, when you look back in your life and seen all really, really challenging, difficult periods have actually been, in truth, the periods of growth. You know, it's something that you've had to really dig deep, and you've had to try and find like a new way of doing things out of desperation, usually, because there's no other choice, you know. And it's not until you're put into that situation that pressure, like I was saying, like it's like a diamond, you know, a diamond is created by massive pressure in the depths of the earth, you know, and it's just like it gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And next thing you know, you've got this pure diamond, and you know that is kind of really a substance that is extremely strong, you know, and then you have to shine it up and polish it up, and you have to make it, beautify it, and you know, it becomes illuminated. But it does take that pressure, and that, because you're never going to put that pressure on yourself, the amount of pressure, you know, that you need to really transform. And you know yourself, probably from coaching and from even trying to help family members that are in difficult times, sometimes they just want to hear it until they're really on their knees, you know, and then you can be there to guide and to help, whatever. But we do need those kind of periods to really grow, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. It's sometimes I think no matter how awful some of those experiences are or can be, I do sometimes think that you know, we kind of have to go through these things in order to realize, you know, who we really are and what we actually really do want, you know, as well as what we don't want. But then once we know what we do want, we can focus on that. And that really, really helps as well. Which kind of brings us on quite nicely to the topic of our conversation this morning. In actual, it's a real shame. I know we said before, it's a real shame that Karen Unrue can't be with us this morning. She's feeling unwell. She's not well at all, bless her. So we hope, Karen, that you have a really, really speedy recovery and that you're feeling better each and every day. But we'll go ahead and have this conversation anyway. It was there was a Facebook post that Karen put up some while ago now. And there was an interesting conversation that followed within the comment thread. And it was about people that have physical health challenges and mental health challenges, and the difficulties that they have experienced with holding down a job, basically. And the frustrations that they clearly and obviously experience with that. And it got me thinking, and I thought, you know what? I mean, I've been employed in my time, and I've experienced some really great managers and understanding people, and equally I've experienced some not particularly understanding managers and people that I've worked for and with. And it was those occasions that, I mean, I've always known that I've wanted to work for myself anyway, to be my own boss. And it was those negative occasions that just pretty much confirmed that this is what I have to do. This is absolutely what I have to do. Now, I mean, what I'm doing is something that I've always kind of done and always had a passion for doing, which is helping others. But I also realised that whilst I was reading the comments in Karen's post there, that we don't all necessarily have that clarity to realise that actually, if we've got things that we really enjoy doing, we can make money out of doing those things. It just takes a little bit of creative imagination and perhaps looking outside the box to realise that, you know, we can actually monetize what we do. And by doing that, essentially what we're doing is we are taking control of our financial situations of our work situations.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there are certain things that we have to be aware of being self-employed. However, it's not that difficult, to be honest. I've always said, if I can do it, anybody can do it. You know,
Yeah.
And you know, we and by doing that, by being self-employed, by being our own bosses, we're doing something that we love doing, and we're doing it at times that suit us, and when we're feeling well enough to do it. And if we're not feeling on top of things, or you know, we just have a day where we really can't be asked, it doesn't matter. You know, nobody's going to have a go at us for that. Nobody's going to deduct our wages for that. Nobody's going to give us a warning that's going to go on our record. Nobody's going to sack us for that.
Yeah. It's a great point, actually, because, you know, it's funny. I was thinking to myself, because I suppose I've kind of worked for myself. At first, myself and my husband set up Bennis Design in, I think it was 2003. He set up first. I joined. We used to work together first. I was senior designer. He was the creative director, and in another company. And I kind of got to the stage where I think it's a natural progression sometimes, you know, within your own growth as such, that you feel you've learned enough, you know, you kind of maxed out on where you are. And a sign of that is kind of discontentness. you know, you're just you feel like you're not challenged, or maybe you're just repeating the same thing over and over again. And sometimes then you start to, get a little bit, you know, unhappy in your work environment. And so then I was thinking to myself, you know, I would love like that to have more control over my time, you know, because I was kind of getting older. I suppose I was getting to around 30 at the time, and I was thinking of having a family and things. And I was thinking of, especially in design, it was going to be really, really challenging when it came to deadlines. Like your whole life was just deadline. It was like working in A&E, you know, in triage, you know, and I couldn't imagine having children and having that kind of a life. You know, the stress just would have been too much. You know, it just wouldn't have been something that I could have had a family with. So that was really kind of part of it as well, the well-being side of it, you know, because at that time, like, but I suppose so many 20 years ago, there was no awareness around well-being and wellness in the corporate world, you know. So we decided then to start ourselves. And then when I had kids, and I could work around the kids, you know, even when they were small, I had projects that I would keep going, and I would have certain clients that I looked after. And even, you know, my mother-in-law and my mother used to come up and help and stuff like that. And I kind of worked around it for many years. And then as they went to school, then I had more time, and, you know, I kind of ramped it up again, kind of thing. But it was really the flexibility, the fact that I could have more control over my time, and that meant my lifestyle, I suppose, improved, because before I was very much completely career orientated, because I loved it, you know, I really did love it, and, you know, I got a lot from it. But then as you get older, then you have different priorities, and like that, it just wouldn't have worked, or it would have been extremely difficult. You know, I would have just been stressed out completely, having 2 kids and trying to keep that going, you know. And it's not a type of industry, and I think definitely what you're saying, it depends on the industry. Like for my industry, it wouldn't have been something I could do on a part-time basis. I couldn't have done 3 days a week, because if you're kind of launching a new product for a big brand, they don't want to hear, oh yeah, sorry, I'm off for 2 days with the kids, you know, because I have to. Like, no. Yeah, right. You know, like we're going global on this on Tuesday or whatever, you know, like it's just, and you're the top designer, senior designer looking after it. You might have 4 different designers underneath you, you know, and you're giving them directions, you know, so you just couldn't do that, you know, it's just highly. So I suppose then the clients I picked then were funny, because it changed then into more kind of into healthcare, into HSC, into well-being, and into like environmental stuff. And it was actually more government based, and they were kind of public sector workers. So it was much more slower pace, even though there was lots of launches, but it was at a slower pace. It wasn't as, you know, kind of cutthroat, because I suppose even like launching up onto the you know, onto the stock exchange, we used to do that as well. You know, people going public, you know, so you're launching them to the stock exchange, you know, and things like that. So it was very tight, you know, the timings and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely, like I kind of wound down, and the well-being side of things, then I started, you know, to understand, I suppose, the difficulty for mental health in those scenarios, you know, and the fact that people, you know, and I suppose that's why now I'm kind of with Flourish by Design. It's all about kind of the wellness and well-being within, trying to get those kind of that into the psyche of kind of industry, that to understand that they're just only going to have burnout, you know, and mental health issues, because when it's not in the philosophy of the company, you know, to be looking after their staff, because it's just, stress is a killer, as we all know. You know, it doesn't matter really about what you're eating, exercising, all that. It can be all that. If you're in major stress all the time, it has a massive effect on your mental health and your physical health, you know. It's just causes burnout, and it causes illness, you know. So I think having that choice I think now in COVID, I got really excited, because I was kind of thinking, wow, you know, it's a great possibility for people now to work from home, and then maybe to set up like so many more SMEs, you know, or people just working on their own. You know, you can set up a website, have your branding, you know, do a service that is niche, you know, that people are looking for, all these little niche areas. And they love, I think the personal touch is really important, because people are looking for connection. So, you know, like people are looking for that one-on-one connection, and somebody that can support them and can kind of, you know, help them, you know, move on to what, you know, for coaching and stuff, but also then for themselves, you know, to be bringing a particular service that nobody else can bring, only them, through their life experience, you know. And I think it's like the value, seeing the value in yourself first, and then, you know, try to get yourself online and putting yourself out there into the market. And once you do that, you know, it has a knock-on effect, doesn't it? And you know, you kind of, you get so much more fulfilled then from that, and your well-being increases, you know. So it is a really, that's the silver lining to COVID, I think, because I see potential in everything. To me, it's like, you know, divergent thought is like lots of different ideas. Like, you know, one thing happens and it's like a catalyst. For me, like, it's been, I know it's very, very difficult, but I also think it's a really huge opportunity for growth for people. And like, if they used it in that way, it could be amazing, you know?
Yes. You know, there is a question that it was recommended years ago, that I actually ask when things are looking like they're not going particularly well, or there's a problem. There's a problem, like for example, with this whole situation that we've found ourselves in since March last year. My my question to ask is, okay, so we've all been thrown into this, or this has happened. Rather than looking at the negative side of it, the question I ask is, what does this make possible?
Yes.
And then I start looking at all the different options that I might have. And I keep looking, and I keep looking, and keep looking. And eventually, because we've got that, or at least the beginnings of a positive frame of mind, because we're looking for what is possible rather than focusing on what is not possible.
Yes.
You know, different opportunities suddenly pop up. That sounds really strange, and I know it's very much law of attraction stuff, and it, you know, it's just something that I use. Well, it's in use every single day, isn't it? It's working all the time. But it's very much a case of, I always try and look for the positive in all of the negatives. What does this make possible? These opportunities that pop up, they were always there. Those opportunities have always been there. It's just whether or not I was open-minded enough and aware enough to actually see them for what they actually are.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's my choice, completely my choice, as to whether or not I actually do anything with them.
Yeah.
you know. And then of course I think sometimes that kind of brings us into stepping a little bit outside of our comfort zone, doesn't it? We can become so comfortable and used to things being a certain way and doing certain things, that when we have to do things differently, or I say when we have to do things differently, when there's the opportunity there to do something a little bit different that we're not used to, that we've perhaps not done before, it can seem a bit scary.
Yeah,
it really can.
Of course it is, you know. And what I'm getting actually is roadblocks. And you know, it's funny because you have the GPS, you know, you're the human GPS, and think of you on the road, and I think actually sometimes to me, at the start of this COVID, I was thinking, you know, I know about creativity. I live creativity since I was so tiny, and I love it, and I know the way it thinks, you know, and I know it loves limitation, because it means that you have to find something new is being created. It's not that it's even out there yet. It's actually emergent. It's emergent design in the moment. So at the moment, things are really hot, you know, like color is another one of those universal principles. Like, so at the moment, things are hot. Things are really hot, you know, because they're hot in the fact that there's a lot of pressure. You know, you think of molten lava, you know, like, and anything like a blacksmith or whatever, everything has to be kind of melted down to be shaped into a new form, you know, and we need a lot of pressure and heat for that, you know, and creativity is always going to come out of that kind of type of scenario, but there's always, like, life is always creative. It's innately creative, but sometimes it's not until those roadblocks are put up. So, you know, say it's like, if you think sometimes, like, there are lots of different possibilities, but what is particular to you? So that's sometimes the hard thing. So there's loads of possibilities, but what is my particular thing? What's specific to me, you know, is the hard part. But I think sometimes then it's like the roadblocks. You're going down the road and you get frustrated because you say, "Oh, there's a roadblock there. I can't go down there. I can't go there. I can't, because there's another roadblock there." But it's actually, that's kind of frustrating. But if you keep going and keep following it, you'll find the pathway, and then you look back and realize why the roadblocks were there, because they were actually pushing you in a direction that life wanted you to go in, and that was bringing you to that specific point. And you're a great example of that, when you started your coaching business straight off COVID, didn't you? You know, and it was like there was roadblocks there, but then what came out of it was exactly what was suited specifically to you, you know, and then you were ready to serve other people. So it's really genius, you know.
Oh yeah. I have to say as well, you know, those roadblocks are always very, very useful things, because they cause us to stop and think about where we are at the moment, and we'll look at that roadblock, and depending on what kind of a block it is, it can go one of two ways, really. We can see it as a problem, and it is absolutely blocking the path that we've chosen to go down, and there's potentially nothing we can do about it. So we've got to find a way around it. The other thing that can happen there is that it's something that we've actually put there ourselves. So, for example, you know, we're going so far down the journey and we're doing quite well, and all of a sudden we hit a certain point and we're just thinking, I can't do that. You know, okay, what's causing you to choose that, you know, to believe that you can't do that? Well, I'm you know, I don't have enough experience. Okay. So what would give you enough experience? You know, or I don't have the right skill sets. Okay, how can you get the right skill sets? Or how can you use the skill sets that you already have? So, you know, so one in the comments, I don't know who the Facebook user is, would you not see a block as an opportunity to tap into your subconscious mind to make that choice and decision on the action to take that next step in life. Absolutely. I think this is, this is very much what we're talking about right at the moment, isn't it? It's, as I say, they're generally are two different types of roadblocks. Ones that we really can't get past, and they are there for a reason. So we've got to find a way around it. But there are others that we can actually work through and clear.
Yeah.
And that in itself is part of our journey.
Yes.
And because we are all so very different, we've all got different things that are important to us, different values, different beliefs, because of the different experiences that we've had. And I think if we just believe in ourselves, and believe that not only do we have the power and the ability to achieve what we want to achieve, we also have the power and the ability to overcome anything that will suddenly come and leap out in front of us and go, you're not going any further.
Yes, I love that. I love the fact, I often think that to myself as well, and it's really powerful to think that you always have, it's a brilliant mantra to think that we always have the power to overcome every obstacle that we come up against.
Yeah.
That is just really, really key, isn't it? It's one of those golden rules, that you should always kind of fall back on, because if you can, it's the truth, there's nothing that any of us, no matter how hard it is, we might need support, we might need help, we might need, some really good friends around us, we might be whatever, but we can overcome it, and we will overcome it. There's no reason that we can't, and then out of that, something better can come, So it's like, that's a brilliant one. I think that's really, really, really key, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sure, Kerry, that's been tried and tested, has it?
Oh, yes. Quite a few times. Another one that's
been taken out for a drive a few times, I'd say.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. There's another one that's been tried and tested a couple of times, especially recently, and people may well experience this along their own journeys, that if they've not already experienced it, there will be people out there who believe that they are being well-meaning and have your best interests at heart. And they will give you their own opinion about what it is that you are setting out to do. And they will give you their own beliefs as to whether or not they think that you should or shouldn't be doing it. Yeah. I mean, I have actually had people say to me in the past, especially at the beginning when I first set out as the human GPS with the coaching, because like any business, it takes a little while to pick up momentum, and you've got to get yourself out there and let people know that you're here, you exist. This is what I do, this is how I can help you. And so, it did take a little while to begin with. Like any business is going to. And it was well, wouldn't you be better off getting a proper job? And my short, sharp answer to that was no, because that's not what I want to do. I can no longer go back to being employed. I consider myself to be unemployable now. Purely because I am doing something that I have a deep burning desire to do, that I love doing, that I'm very passionate about and have been for such a long time. And equally I know people that have made a career purely out of something that started out as a hobby.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at most photographers, that would have started out as a hobby and something that they found that they enjoyed doing.
Absolutely.
So any photographer that's gone into the professional world with it has started out as a hobby. The same with painters, artists.
Oh yeah,
designers.
Yes, exactly. Like that. I suppose for me, it's like I loved art and everything, but I knew I didn't want to be a starving artist. I didn't fancy that. I could see a lot of poverty around me, and I said, no, doesn't look like much fun. So I decided to mix it with business, and then I thought, like, well, I had an interest in psychology as well, so like advertising, business, and psychology was all the same, like creativity. So it's like that's why we're sitting here today, because of that that triad combination. Like that. It's all kind of the mind, creativity, and I suppose business is what we're talking about, mixing those three actually in this conversation, really, because what you're saying to me, what I hear you saying is that, your guidance has been maybe just purely logic, but we have to bring in what we love, because if you don't bring in what you love, then you're not really tapping into that vital force, like we were talking about on Friday with Tessa. And Adam was saying, where there's a will, there's a way. Like, what is that really? That's that kind of fire again in your system. That what fires you is what you love.
Yeah.
And then you have to bring the logic in. How am I going to do it? But if you have like just a job that's just based on financial, it pays the bills, that's going to kill you. You're mentally and spiritually and everything. So it's not going to do it, because it might look fine. Oh yeah, it pays the bills, it's a great job, but I'm dying here, I'm withering away. I'm just not going to be able to continue in it because I don't love it, But yes, you can also do something that you have to love and you're not making any money out of it. So you have to bring the logic in. So it's a balance of the two, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
To try and find that. And then, like you said, like even, when you saying about starting your own business this year, like you have to get used to the idea of you even do yourself being that new person as well. And it takes time for that to kind of become embodied. And you're talking about energy and a law of attraction then, once you kind of start to really feel into it, and that's been my experience. Well, it's only started in May as well. And, it changes the physiology, your mind, your thinking, and that changes your energy. So then you start to kind of energetically transform after the logical part is being done. You're kind of changing yourself again. Like it's like an upgrade, isn't it? You're getting a kind of a new upgrade, and it takes a while. It's like when you're downloading on your phone a new operating system. It takes a little bit of time for that kick in, and then when you got to kick in, you have to get used to it as well. I'm not really sure exactly. This is new to me. I'm not sure how to use it yet.
That's it. But
new,
it is. It's just. Essentially, it's listening to it's tapping into your intuition, isn't it? Your gut feeling, just really listening to that and going really deep within to realize who you really are.
Yes. Feeling into your own essence. That's what it is. You're feeling your own essence. That's the whole feeling. You're feeling, that's intuition, because that's the third element. You've got your logic, you've got what you love, but then the intuition is the third element, which is your essence. And your essence is like the essence of life, but it's your particular flavor. There's a flavor to somebody's essence, and you can feel that in somebody else. When you really tap into it, you kind of really, and there's so much information in that, but it's just like then you're feeling into your future then. So you're guided by your intuition, and you get that like intuitive guidance, it's just life is guiding you, and it's kind of internal, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's where all of those things become aligned.
That's it. Exactly.
You will know absolutely that you are on the right path, that you're doing the right thing for you, for your life. All that tingly feeling as well. And whenever it's just like, wow, I can feel the energy. I really feel the energy. And it's amazing. It's just amazing.
That's when you're on the high, you're on the main road, you're on the motorway, then you're flying along 120, you're at top speed. You're coming off the little side roads, and you're like have to merge and into the main traffic.
That's it. And it's like for me, it's like being on a motorbike.
Okay.
Not that I've been on a motorbike for many years, but I did a course and I passed my test, and I did have a motorbike for quite a few years, but so I've not ridden in a long time, and I'd love to get back on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like going out onto the open road and knowing that it's straight, and you can just open up the throttle, and that feeling of exhilaration and freedom, and almost a bit dangerous, I know, on a motorbike, but that feeling of invincibility.
Yeah.
Like, wow, yes.
Yeah. But Kerry, do you know what? I was thinking yesterday, because I was driving yesterday and I had that experience as well. I was going, God, I love the open road. I was kind of just, I had to pick up speed, and I was flying along. So I'd gone back to the village where I grew up, and I was coming back, and it was really windy roads, really, really windy roads. You have to really pay attention and make sure it was in the dark, and it's complete black, there's no street lights or anything like that, and country, windy Irish roads. And then, as I kind of got into the town, then you start to get the lights are on, and it's a little bit easier, a few roundabouts and signs, whatever. And then the minute I got to the main road, and it was just like, whoa, I was like, wow, it's amazing, and it was like that, isn't it? It's just like the open road, and there was no one else around. It just could just go straight to Dublin, It was like, it's just like such a beautiful sense of freedom. And I think actually what that is kind of like is if you're, sorry, cat. It's like my cats are having a bit of a party in there. It's like as if, I think it's actually when you have all your talents and your skills are being challenged, you're actually then aligning everything, like, isn't it? So you're actually being made use of, you're actually, I think sometimes when those dormant talents and those dormant, like say, like putting your life experience into action, like into service, is kind of that. Like, so it's like, you're after, you feel on purpose then, because your life has meaning now, because everything that you've gone through is helping other people. And then all the talents and things that you have innately in you, maybe from your parents and stuff, it's also in alignment with that too. And you're feeling on, fired up, and you're also feeling like you're helping, you're in the flow of life. So it's kind of those three things, like, isn't it? It's like your talents, your innate, the wisdom that you've gained from life, and then you're in the flow of life, and you're connected to the wisdom of life and the intuition. So it's kind of like it's you're on the highway then, just flying along. It's because it is a feeling, isn't it? It's not so much a cognitive thing.
Yeah. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Just going back through the comments here, we've got anything is possible if we believe in ourselves.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, but my view now is that we only find things hard if we believe and tell ourselves that this is hard, as I believe this all connects to the vicious cycle. Absolutely. Absolutely. All we've got to do is change that belief about ourselves, or about that particular roadblock. That sounds really easy, doesn't it? All we've got to do is change our, and it's not always as easy as it sounds, but it can be done.
But it has to be done consciously, doesn't it?
Yes.
Consciously has to be done. So you have to become conscious of the thoughts that are causing you to find things difficult. Then once you're conscious and aware of that, then you have the ability to change your way of thinking. And then it opens up the roadblock then, and saying, okay, what I thought was a roadblock, actually I dissolved it, because now I can see there's a way through it. Like you're saying, there's nothing that we can't overcome, that there's always a way. And a lot of the time it's just within ourselves that we're making it difficult for ourselves.
Definitely. It absolutely is, and as I said before, we do have those choices. Another comment: at one point in my life, I thought I was on the wrong path and believed spirituality was a hoax. I now cannot recommend it enough, and now I believe I, as well as everyone involved with Mental Health Warriors, are on the right path to success. It's being spiritual is not quite the same as spiritualism, you know, or being a spiritualist. Spirituality, it's essentially who we are.
Yes.
Isn't it?
And Kerry, explain what a spiritualist is, because actually it's funny, I was thinking about the same thing just this morning. I think it was last night, maybe in the car, like, because there is, I know you have a background kind of maybe in that, you could explain the difference, because to me, like there's a huge difference. That would be great to explain to people.
Yeah. So I know not everybody believes in this, but I have I was brought up, I'll rephrase that. I grew up with a parent who has been involved in spiritualism and is a spiritualist for most of his life. My dad. My mum, when she was alive, she was for a while. Something happened. She decided she no longer wanted anything to do with it. So it was kept from my brother and I until we were in our early teens. And even then, my mum didn't know that we knew. And it came about because of a school assembly that we'd both been to, my brother and I. And they'd been talking about mediums, and I hadn't got a clue what they were talking about, to be honest. You know, it wasn't something that was like obvious to me. And it was one of the very rare occasions that my dad actually picked us up from school in the car. Usual conversation ensued. How was school? You know, blah, blah, blah. And I actually then asked the question. I said, you know, what is a medium? And so it was then that he explained what a medium is and his involvement. And also the fact that, you know, we weren't to speak about it in front of mum because she didn't like it, which was fair enough. You know, we respected that. So I'm just trying to think how old I was. I was probably about 13 or 14 at the time, probably 13. And so there kind of started my conscious journey as far as spiritualism is concerned. Now, don't get me wrong. I've experienced all sorts of things, you know, way before then that I couldn't explain. And I don't recall asking any questions about it. But from then on, I used to look forward to having these private conversations with my dad, and I learned so much, you know. But it's not until later in life when you kind of look at the bigger picture and you can see how it all fits in, you know, where it all comes from. And I'll admit that there came a time, excuse me, probably not that long ago, actually. It was probably about 7 or 8 years ago, where I was questioning everything, absolutely everything, including this whole spiritualism thing. But then when I became aware of the law of attraction, and I realized that it encompassed pretty much everything that I had believed through all of my life to that point, and realized where spiritualism actually fitted into all of that, and how it still fits into all of that, you know. And I without wishing to, or without intentionally meaning to offend anybody, you know, I don't refer to the source energy as God. I refer to it as the universe. There are others that will refer to it as the source energy as God, or whatever the name is for their God in their particular faith. And that's absolutely fine, you know. And that can also lead me into a whole other conversation. But the whole point is that I knew there was something deep down inside of me that knew all along that this is who I am, and this is what I'm meant to be doing. And as I've gone along this part of my journey, I've also realized that there's so much more that I need to be doing, that I want to be doing, that I will be doing.
Yes.
And again, it's that deep inside feeling, that feeling of knowing.
Yes. Yes, that's it. Exactly. Yeah.
So I consider that I am a spiritual being. My spirituality is my growth, recognizing who I really am. Spiritualism and being a spiritualist are that all of it's kind of linked, but the spiritualism and the spiritualist side of things is much more. For example, you will have things like mediumship circles, that kind of thing, you know. And my opinion of those is, as long as they are used for good, then they're great. You know, I've not experienced an actual circle where you do have a group of, I mean, it's not necessarily how it's depicted in some films where they sit around a table in the dark with a candle lit in the middle. And it's not a knock once for yes and twice for no kind of thing. It's excuse me, it's very different from that. But I've never experienced any kind of mediumship circle in that respect. You know, I actually go along once a week. I go along to it's online at the moment, a meditation circle, which is lovely. I look forward to it every single week because we start off with the most wonderful meditation.
Gorgeous.
And we take whatever we get from that meditation and we get to write it down or talk about it. And then we can, again, connecting with our intuition or spirit or source energy, you know, whatever you want.
Or people call it God. People, you know, it's all different words, isn't it?
That's it. That's it.
And whatever connects with whoever the individual is.
And I've even learned to read tarot cards through purely using my intuition.
You know,
and just allowing words to come in. Here's a good example of just allowing the words to flow. Excuse me. When my mum passed a few years ago, we were we'd gone to have a meeting with the funeral director to obviously discuss the ins and outs of the whole thing. And she asked us if any of us wanted, that was me, my dad and my brother, if any of us wanted to actually say something at the crematorium. And we all said, no, thank you. You know. And anyway, a couple of days later, I was sitting at home and all of a sudden, all of these words just suddenly came flooding into my head. And I sat there and I thought, okay, I'm going to have to say something, aren't I?
You knew it, you're up.
So I rang my dad and I told him what had happened. And he said, that's fine. He said, I just knew that it wasn't for me to do.
Wow.
He said, I just knew that it wasn't something that, you know, I had to do. He said, and if it's clearly something that you have to do, he said, and that's absolutely fine.
Amazing. That's amazing. And I think you like that. When I'm listening to you there, it's I call it truth, you know, connection to truth. You know, the truth of like truth to me, you know, what's true to me. Because like that, it's very specific. It's universe, like the universe, like the triangle again, but it's like the universal will, I suppose, but it comes down straight. What's specific to you is your own truth, you know. So it's like that feeds into everything. It's like you're just getting with the program, like you're getting with like what are you supposed to be doing, and it's connecting with that kind of intelligence, I suppose. So it's like you're saying, it's actually the intelligence that's not your own. It's just not just from your own experience of your day-to-day living, your past, you know, what you know, at this point, you know, is quite limited, as in all of us at this moment is always limited. But when you're open, you're kind of open to receiving kind of your intuition, then things like that can happen. Like, you know, you can get down to get ideas. That's where creativity comes from. And innovation, you know, like all the greatest scientists and all the greatest, you know, authors and, you know, poets and, you know, and even like we're on now on technology, you know, I don't know if you know about Apple and how that was started and stuff. That was all through meditation. It was all through, he went off to India and, you know, kind of basically opened up his intuition, and then he started to get all the intuitive hits. So we wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for our intuition and you know, that kind of, because it's a higher intelligence. It's kind of inviting in the higher intelligence, you know, the higher intelligence of life into your life, so that, and then just being kind of just acting on that, then just taking that into action. Like you said, you got that, but then also you acted on it too. You know, you went and did the reading, you know, and you know, and even with your business, you heard that call and you acted on it. So like a lot of people hear it and they don't act on it, or they dismiss it, or they're not maybe understanding the vital importance of it, of that whisper, like I was talking to a Tessa, the little whisper, because little whisper, you know, and you have to be kind of very sensitive to listening to that, to hearing it, don't you? Because it's kind of different to everything else. And then it takes that, like, you know, strength of will and inner strength to follow it. Because like that, we were talking about Tessa as well. She wanted to do something Friday. She was saying about traveling, and her dad was saying, "No, don't do it." And her mom was saying it supported her, but she went with it and she did it, you know. And because it's a gentle little nudge, you know, until, I suppose, like we were saying, it starts gentle and it gets louder and louder and louder, and it becomes like a big slap in the head. But if you don't listen to it, you know.
Sometimes
if you don't, you know.
Well, that's it. But sometimes it can be instant, can't it?
Yeah.
I'll give you another really good example of that instant thought and that knowing and just going with it.
Yes.
I've always had a problem with spiders, and until I started living on my own, sort of about 13, 14 years ago. There was always somebody else around to deal with a spider. Because I couldn't even be in the same room.
I mean, daughter's like that. Lauren's like that too. She freaks out.
If they were little ones, it was all right, but above a certain size, and it was like, no, thank you. Of course, as I say, when I started living on my own, I then had to deal with these things myself. So I was less bothered by them. I became less bothered by them, you know, because I think logic kind of starts to kick in somewhere. You know, these things are much, much smaller than me, and they're 10 times, if not 100 times more scared of me than I am of it.
Yes.
You know?
That's it.
Anyway, when I got to go to Longleat a few years ago with some friends, we had this fantastic weekend. And on the second day, we were heading back into Longleat, and my friend Mark was saying to me about, we were talking about phobias, that's right. And we'd had, because there was a few of us, we'd rented this lovely bungalow not too far from Longleat itself. But it was on a farm, pig farm. And the first night we were there, we were all sitting in the living room, and this huge thing marched through the door and went straight under the sofa. And so I was sitting on the armchair. My feet instantly went up onto the coffee table. There was two people sitting on the sofa. One instantly put his feet up on the sofa. The other one ran the other side of the room. And it kind of left Mark to deal with removing this huge monster that had dared come through the door and invade our space, you know. And so we were kind of talking about that, and he said how he had held a tarantula some years ago, and that had got him over his dislike of spiders. You know, his fear wasn't, it had never been quite as deep as mine, but I also consider that my fear was never as deep as quite a few other people that I've known. You know, I've known people to literally go into absolute hysterics, even at the tiniest little money spider, you know. Anyway, but of course it's very real for them, isn't it? You know, their fear is very real for them. So anyway, we were driving into Longley, and we were talking about these phobias, and he was telling me about when he held a tarantula, and he said, "Oh, he said you should do the same thing." And I said, "Mark, the very last thing I would ever consider doing is getting up close and personal with a spider." I said, "So don't even think about it." So anyway, we're going round. We're going around through the animal kingdom bit, and the very last bit was you've got a choice of either going through the butterfly house into animal handling or directly into animal handling. And I thought, okay, butterflies and moths can be beautiful, but they always tend to go for my face, and I don't like that. So I left the guys to go through the butterfly house, and I decided to go into animal handling because I wanted to hold a snake. I absolutely love reptiles, snakes. I find them fascinating. So I walked through the door, and there were no reptiles. All there was across the other side of the room, behind the counter and a queue of people, was a young girl, she's probably in her 20s. And she's handing this tarantula to the people that were queuing up for it. And I just thought, no. So I kept my distance, but the curiosity kind of got the better of me, and I kept watching, and it was like, it's not moving. It's not real. So I got closer and closer until eventually I was standing at the front of the queue just watching. And she got this thing. Scarlet was the spider's name. She was a 9-year-old Argentinian roseneed. So being female, she was all like one colour, sort of pinky colour, and not the big hairy beasts that you imagine with the black and red stripes or anything like that. And she was just sat calmly in the handler's hand. And every time she went to sit on somebody else's hand, she literally just sidestepped. And that was it. And she'd just sit there. And I watched this for a few minutes. And all of a sudden, this thought came into my head, I want to hold it. And it was one of those thoughts that it didn't just come inside my head, it came into all of me.
Yeah, exactly.
So I knew that I knew that I had to do this. Of course, the guys came through from the butterfly house, and I was like, I want to hold the tarantula. Like, yes. And one of them's like, I'm going to be waiting over here then. And so I joined the queue. By the time it got to because I'd had to wait for a little bit, by the time it got to my time, my hands were sweating, and I was like, you know,
try mouth.
Everybody was really, really brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And you know, the handler was talking. She said, just put your finger under one feet. And I'm thinking, I've never touched a spider in my entire life, and now I'm going to put my finger underneath the foot of a tarantula. What am I doing? And it took a couple of minutes, and everybody in the queue, they were really brilliant as well. They were so encouraging. You know, it's like, go on, you've got to do it. If you don't do it, you're going to regret it, you know. It's like, okay then. And so eventually she did. She just sidestepped onto my hand. And do you know what? She sat there, good as gold. And it was just like holding a very small, furry creature. You know, hardly any weight there at all. And it is, I have to say, one of the best experiences I've ever had.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I won't handle the spiders that come indoors. But I don't mind them being there.
Yeah. That's amazing that you kind of just face that fear, but like, you know, getting that intuitive hit to just, you know, it's really like, it sounded like you kind of had a deep respect for the spider, you know, just in that moment. And you thought, like, you know, no, I can do this. I can actually just, you know, she's lovely. Like, just, you know, just to allow it happen. You know, like, it's amazing because, like, you know, it's funny what you're saying there. I can hear you saying that kind of, you got the intuitive, the knowing, and then your mind goes crazy. Go, what the hell are you doing? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it starts chattering. You know what I mean? It's like, what do you think you're doing? And like, there's something else propelling you beyond the mind. You know what I mean? It's like that inner self, like, is just going, no, I can hear what you're saying. I actually, you know, totally respect your point of view, but I'm doing that anyway. You know, it's amazing, you know. And I think the more you do that, the more that quietens that kind of voice. I notice that myself. Whenever I come up against that edge, you know, the mind starts going crazy and telling me everything. It goes like, you know, it's like having a huge argument, you know, throwing every dish in the house at you, and you know, and you're going like, it's like this major bully inside, and then you're going like, oh, I'm actually doing it. Thanks very much. Really glad, delighted to have your opinion there, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then it just goes quiet because it goes, oh, you're pointing out, she's just going to do it anyway. You know, it's amazing. You know, but that's the roadblock, isn't it? That is the robot.
It is.
They're the noises, that sounds of the voices.
That's it. But it was all because of my previous perception and beliefs about spiders.
Yeah.
You know, that had all been learned.
Yeah.
So bearing that in mind, if anything that we learn, we can unlearn.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a collection of ideas and thoughts and everything, just that's kind of solidified into something, into like a blockage. Yeah. You know, and it's just a mind block.
It absolutely is. You know, it's our own perception, our own belief about something. And as I say, we've learned it, so we can unlearn it, and we can. And that was a great example, really. Me with the tarantula, of being able to change our perception just like that.
Yeah. And maybe, Kerry, I'm just thinking now, maybe when you did that, who knows, you might have running your own business now, bringing it back to the workthose.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing
those little things, those little overcoming those little things, kind of build the muscle to do the bigger things, I think. You know, it's like a little seed, like you did that one thing, and then it made you understand that I could overcome this fear. And then, you know, look at you now, you know, do you know what I mean? So it does actually have that, like, it's sometimes you don't think that's significant. That was actually a really majorly significant moment, you know, to get that intuition. Seemed really small, little thing, but look, you know, what it kind of like a seed, you know, in your psyche, you know, that kind of opens something, you know. Yeah,
definitely. You're absolutely right with that, because it's so many of us, and me included. You know, I spent much of my life, living my life, and because I took on other people's beliefs.
Yeah,
you know, about how I should be living my life in different aspects of it, you know.
That's a brilliant parable, actually. That is a brilliant parable. Just on that, exactly. Just the story of the spider, you know, because like that was a belief system.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It was just a belief system, and like you said, it maybe dissolved the fact that you realize that there was lots of other belief systems that you were just listening to that weren't true.
Yeah. Yes, you know, the thing is, we do it all the time, don't we? We all sit there and listen to what other people have to say, and we will all, at some point, if we haven't already, you know, be sitting there thinking, well, I'd like to do this, but you know, what will other people think?
Yeah.
And do you know what? It really doesn't matter what other people think. If it's something that is within you, deep within you, and you have this burning desire to do it, don't worry about what other people think, because they're not living your life.
Yeah.
And I've always been a huge, huge believer of living my life my way.
Yeah.
Yeah. and letting other people live their lives their way.
Yes. Yeah. My mother always says, live and let live. That's her saying, live and let live.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Right, I'm very aware of the time, so moving very swiftly on. I'm enjoying this conversation. I know that we could talk about this for hours. Right. We have Man Cave Movement saying, always go with your gut instinct when you are being told something from within.
That's so Simon. True. That's Simon in the Man Cave Movement. Yeah, great. He's watching. Hi, Simon.
Fabulous. Yeah, so true. And the Mental Health Warriors. Final question, Kerry. How do you feel that this is your final coffee morning of 2021? Do you know, I love doing coffee morning. I absolutely do. And I'm really, really looking forward to getting going again in the new year, because I've got some ideas going for what we can do moving forward. And I have to say that as much as I will miss doing this over the next couple of weeks, I am so looking forward to just having a couple of weeks where I can just chill out. You know, I can recharge, let those creative juices start flowing again, and really get myself back to where I want to be properly for the new year. So, yeah.
Brilliant. And well done. Congratulations on everything you've achieved this year. You know, amazing. You know, so it's you're setting a great example. You're leading by example, Kerry. And that's the best type of leadership, you know.
Thank you. Brilliant. Caroline, it has been an absolute pleasure to chat with you again this morning.
Oh, my pleasure.
I think we'll have to do this a bit more regularly.
Yeah, always delighted. Always love it, Kerry. Thanks so much for asking me on.
And we'll have Karen with us next time, hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Hopefully. Right. Yeah. Okay. Right. So it just leaves me to say to you guys out there, you know, we will be back in the new year. We have got a few more programs coming up. The next one, I missed it almost. Please tune in tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. when we have, in the UK, of course, we have Steve Knapp and Tessa, who are back with the final instalment of Empower You for 2021. And this will be a warrior special. So if you get the opportunity to, please do tune into that and give your support. If not, you can always watch it later, the same way as you can always watch this later. You know, if you're at work today, have a sit and have a watch this evening. And the same with Steve and Tessa's show in the morning. So it leaves me to just basically wish everybody a very happy, peaceful and healthy Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kerry. See you. Bye, everybody. Happy Christmas.